All right, so tell us who you are, please.
Yeah, I'm Braydin Myers from Indiana.
Hmm. Are you a professional hooper, or what do you do?
Oh, yeah, my bad. So yeah, I'm a professional basketball player. I do autism therapy, and I help people with their mental health.
Got you. Okay. Um, First of all, thank you. I myself am autistic, so I appreciate the work you're doing.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So who or what inspired your like athletic passions? Like, what made you want to pursue basketball?
I think the craziest part about this was I was much better at baseball going into probably high school, and I was getting recruited slash talked to early, and something just about baseball, like in me, fell out. And I loved basketball. I was a big Rajon Rondo fan ever since he was at Kentucky. Um, and I love LeBron. And I would say those two really watching them kind of just pushed me. And then and it was also at that time where Ball is Life was like dropping mixtapes all the time.
Hmm.
And seeing all that just like it inspired me to keep going and push harder. So I would say sports wise, Rajon Rondo and LeBron, and then my father, of course, my father. I just always wanted to make him proud, like, and just see him smile because of the stuff I was doing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I think it's kind of like an underrated time. If you think about like the young LeBron and Rondo and that whole era from about like if you think about like '05 to about 2012 when media really started picking up for athletes outside of like the NBA, outside of like the big organizations where people were really blowing up uh, off of their own home media and their own videos or whatnot. Like, I think that's such an underrated time for hoopers because it really was a time where you felt like even though you went to like a no name school or even though you didn't really have the 5 star exposure, you could still some way somehow end up blowing up. Um,
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
yeah. So for you, did you play high school ball and kind of graduated to college and then ended up in the pros, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, so I played high school. I played varsity all 4 years. I think I'm the all-time assist leader at my school. And after high school, I was kind of nervous. I had a couple of talks with some low Division ones, and it didn't really feel right. And even going to college, like I got hurt, so I didn't really get to play much. So basically, my whole first year of college was, a very depressing time for me, and which is I think ultimately why I quit at that time and decided to try to go the professional route. Um, and then I ended up playing in the Hoosier Hardwood Association, which is it was a really small league based out of Indiana, where I started making, I think it was like 500 a month, um, which then that team turned into playing in the TBL, um, and then which led me into trying to, find contracts overseas, whether that's, in many different countries, trying to get a G League offer or try to get a tryout in the G League. Um, but yeah, my my drive there was like it's a totally different story than a lot of people.
Yeah. I admire the perseverance though. Like I see a lot, especially in the college time, where you get injured and that's it. You just hang it up from there. But you said, you know what? There's got to be a different way for me to go about this. There's got to be some other door that could open for me. And you went and looked and found something for yourself.
For sure, for sure. And I think even to this day, and that was, 7, 8, yeah, probably 7 years ago. And even to this day, that the drive is still at an all-time high. Even when I had times where I was in doubt or felt like I lost a little bit, and I was like, maybe it is time to hang it up. And then all of a sudden, it feels like God's hitting me, and He's like, maybe that you're not done just yet. And then
Hmm.
now I'm talking to a couple teams in a couple different countries. and in hopes I can get an opportunity to go prove myself.
For sure, and best of luck to you on those discussions and negotiations. I hope it works out for you.
Appreciate it.
For sure. What for you? What does your faith mean to you as you go about your journey, not just on the court but off the court as well? What does your faith mean to you?
Uh, Honestly, it's been such a wild ride in terms of my faith. I grew up in church, and I grew up worshiping God. And at some point in my life, um, I stopped, and you know, and I categorize this time as like my dark time.
Mm,
And it was where the time I was the most depressed. I was the most this, that, and the third, whether that's suicidal or just depressed. And I went through such a dark time where like now I look at it and I don't remember a single thing of that time. So I'm going to say from 20 to probably 25 years old, I really don't remember much. And luckily, I found my person and she brought me back to God and she brought me back to now over this last year. I'm starting to remember more and I'm starting to, go back to God and I got rebaptized. And so like it's everything to me right now. And I'm so glad I found my way back and that she brought me back. And especially even on the court, I've had moments where I've doubted everything and I've doubted myself and I didn't think maybe I wasn't fit for it or built for it. And then I realized, I'm not doing this for me. Like I'm not playing basketball for me. I think my greater purpose is, yes, while I might be good at basketball, I want to impact a child's life. I want to be able to, somebody watch me and be like, I really liked watching him play. And then through that is, me worshiping God in the way I play and the way I talk to people and the way I give back.
for sure. That's big. A lot of people say one side and aren't ready to live it, or they're kind of like hesitant about that. But you're all in with it, and I could definitely appreciate that.
For sure. And you have times where you waver and you fall off. But I was at church yesterday, and somebody was talking about, you know, you might start falling down the wall, but make sure you stay on the wall because getting over to the wall, you're getting closer to God, and you can't fall off.
Hmm. Yeah, that's big. That's big. So for you, a lot of people they see athletes as like someone who's 24/7 in the gym, someone who's live, breathe, sleep basketball or whatever sport they're pursuing. And then I see a lot of athletes who have the 9 to 5 who still find time to be with their family, to be with their friends, and just that free time that they have, whatever free time it may be, is when they're in a league, they're in the gym, they're putting up shots, whatever the case may be. Um, for you, what defines you as an athlete, and how do you maintain the balance for your own personal life?
I think balance is huge. And I still have a lot of times where I'm like, I wish I was in the gym more. Um, and I think it's hard because right now, I do autism therapy, and that takes up a lot of my day. And while I love it more than life, and I think it's a big reason why I haven't taken some basketball offers is because I don't want to leave what I'm doing because I genuinely love it. Um, but I think the balance is much needed because I went through a time where I literally was in the gym from early morning until I had to go to work. I would leave work to go work out, and then I would stay until probably midnight, 1 a.m. And you get a burnout, and you get burnout so fast. And if you don't have, an outlet, or if you don't have, you know, your person or your friend group that's really close to you, you start to spiral and you think that, basketball is the only way out. It's the only thing that you can do. Um, and once you find that balance, you realize, I can still work really hard, but I can still love my life too. And not to say people that stay in the gym all the time don't, because I know a lot of people that they won't sleep or won't do things until they get what they have to get done the right way.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's different from people to people. I wish I had more time to put into the gym. I still try to put in as much as I can, whether that's morning or night. Um, but I love the fact that I can still spend time with the person I love the most in the world and still be able to hang out with people and get stuff done that I want to get done.
Okay, for sure, for sure. I personally have been there myself. You know, I was 17, 18, 19, and a friend of mine and myself, we would our gym, our local gym, Pepper Park. The gym would open at 8 o'clock. We'd be at the courts on the outside at 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock, we're inside the gym. It closes at 12 for the shift change. All right, we go get lunch. It reopens. We're back in there till they close again at 9. And
I get
then
it.
we would be back at the outside courts. And it got to the point where I probably shouldn't say this, but the city employees were like, "You guys gonna be coming in? Because we're gonna lock the gate, and you're gonna have to jump in order to get out." And we were like,
Yeah, I get it.
"Listen, we're gonna be here." And man, there'd be days where 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, we're still out there putting up shots, and the only thing we have is the street light pointing in the other direction, you know, and we're like,
Yeah,
all
I get
right.
the yeah.
Then, you know, if it's going to be one of those nights, you know, where the other street light doesn't come on to give us a little bit of support, you know, we'll just work on handles and layups, or we'll work on defense, we'll work on dribbling, you know, like, and then we sleep on the park bench or sleep in the back of the gym waiting for the gym to open back up again, you know, like, I've been there before, man.
I get it.
It's
No, I definitely get it.
yeah, it's you know, I don't know. I look back at that time myself and I say, you know, there's definitely a balance that needs to be had, but it's like you said, different strokes for different folks, right? If you find for yourself, you know, that the balance for you is that, you know, doing that for yourself is what pushes you. You know, I don't see anything wrong with that. As long as it's healthy, you know, if you're uh, overcommitting and overworking yourself, not allowing yourself a rest or a time to breathe or whatever, you know, then that's something different. But if you can be happy doing that, you know, hey, more power to you, man. I'm not there anymore.
Right.
That was
Oh yeah,
11
and
years
it
ago
you
for me.
true. Yeah, I get it. But I mean, those times like where you're just so committed, you learn so much about not only yourself, but like ways to handle things better, ways to just grow. And some of that, some things like that you can't learn anywhere else, but just by diving in all the way 100% all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And it kind of flows into what my next question is, but like just thinking about those days for me, I think it created such a perfect foundation for me in the sense of like as an athlete, when things go bad or when I kind of like am unsure about things, because of the foundation I had as, you know, putting in 22 hours of work in a day, um, it gives me these bad habits of like at the end of the day, no matter how much I say I don't, you know, I don't know if I can do this, I still find myself in the gym, you know? And then it takes me a couple of days sometimes, but I kind of find that passion again, you know, and I think, you know,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
I call it a bad habit, but it's like I think like having that type of foundation where, you know, you actually did take the time and energy to dive into your passion to where now it becomes a passion and an outlet that you can reconnect with. I think, you know, definitely, at least for me, it was like a big thing of where like where and this is not to shame anybody, but like where I've seen other people fall to drugs or fall to addiction or fall to, you know, this or that, whatever may come. For me, my unhealthy thing was that I know I shouldn't, but I still went to the gym. You know, and
Right. No, yeah, for sure, for sure.
I think you know, for me, like that's part of like what probably kept me on the path that I'm on right now. Um, so I don't know. For me, I think like having that type of like foundation and internal structure is definitely a bonus, especially in your youth.
Right, for sure.
You know, I see a lot of like social media posts, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of like interviews where you hear perfection thrown around a lot. If you can't make 30 out of 30, if you can't do this 100% of the time, if you can't be perfect, then you're not good enough to make the team. And I think about like the weight of that on like these kids that want to play in the NBA, and even adults that want to play professionally, and how not being perfect is means you're always not going to be good enough. And I think about when you actually do see a game. I think Chris Paul has like a 10 out of a game where he went 10 for 10. Uh, but you don't hear about games like that. You don't hear about perfect games. You still see people. You'll still see LeBron throw a turnover. You'll still see Stephen Curry miss a three. You'll still see. I mean, I've seen Wade miss dunks. You know what I mean? Like it happens. So
Right.
like I worry about like the term of perfection, um, and how it kind of affects like the mental aspect of the game nowadays. Do you feel like the mental health aspect of basketball is kind of like overlooked, especially in like the young and developing athletes?
Yes, and I say that because, that the word perfection is such an unattainable task. Like the only perfect person is Jesus Christ. And with that being said, you can chase and chase and chase and chase perfection as much as you want, and you're always going to fall short, regardless of how good a workout went, how regardless of how good a game went, regardless of what your grades were growing up. Like you're always going to fall short somewhere. And like the best part about chasing perfection is, God willing, you wake up the next day, you can go try again.
Mm,
And I think the mental health aspect of it is so many young kids get caught up trying to mimic what they see on TV, in games or in workouts, and you see a bunch of NBA players that don't miss a lot. Well, yes, I mean I've been front row and I've been in workouts where I haven't missed, or I've seen now NBA players not miss, and it's like it's great to see, but for the average kid or even aspiring pros that are young that you can just tell are going to make it to a certain level, you're not going to get that consistency from that age. And as much as you try, like you're going to fail. And I mean, that's a great thing. And it's a wonderful thing to fail, because the next day, God willing, you can go try again to be 1% better than what you were.
mm. Um, how do you feel the approach as far as like prepping players' mindset should be when it comes to understanding that failure is part of the process?
I think for me, I didn't really have a person or a coach that prepped my mind. Like, I think it's important now. I think, you have to lay out a foundation that, it's okay to fall short right now, especially at an age where you're not expected to go 8 for 10 in a game. You're not expected to go 9 for 10 in a game. You're not really expected to shoot 50% from the field at all. And you have to lay out that foundation. Like, yes, you have to put in the work and you have to try really hard. But don't be surprised when you don't get the exact results you want. And I
Mm,
think even that applies to NBA players now, because sometimes you're not going to get the exact result you want. Um, you're not going to play the way you want all the time, or rarely. Like, it comes to a point where your foundation has to be set on you're going to fail, and it's okay for that, because the next day all you got to do is try to be better than what you were. And that may come in a different aspect than shooting. You may dribble better the next day, you may pass better the next day, you may rebound better the next day. It's always going to be different, but it's okay to fail at a certain spot one day at a time.
for sure, for sure. I 100% agree with that. I feel like maybe it's a personal thing, but I feel like when I see like the kids I've coached and the kids I've trained, when I see that they'll stop themselves, or they'll walk away from the court, they'll walk off from practice, and it'll be over a simple mistake that was kind of part of the process. And you sit there and talk with them like, hey, what happened? It's like, coach, I'm not good enough, or I'll never be good enough, or I can't figure. I feel like, we run into that wall so much nowadays with these kids, and I think about what Phil Jackson said. He said, uh, when I had Michael, when I had Scotty, when I had the Bulls, if they were down by 20, I didn't pull them to the side all the time. I said, listen, this is part of the bit. Sometimes you're going to be down by 20, and can you figure it out? We're here if you need help, but are you also able to figure it out and understand that you had the misfortune of making the mistakes that got you here, but you also have the talent and ability and the trust from the people around you to be able to get yourself out of it as well. Trust that you've done the work, and we've been here to support you, and that we believe that you can, not just an expectation of if you don't then it's all over, but like we believe you can. you
No,
know
I agree. I agree. I think the biggest thing, and I even like even in terms of like what I do outside of basketball, is you got to figure it out. Like even like dealing with children with autism, there's a lot of things that they don't understand how to regulate, and it's like you got to figure it out on your own. Like you got to learn how to self-loathe yourself, and that applies to basketball too. You're gonna get mad. You're gonna walk away. But in that time, are you beating yourself up? Are you learning how to figure it out by yourself? And I think that's a big thing that I think even high school coaches and middle school coaches now, like they want to harp on you and yell at you for what you did wrong. But I mean, even if they teach you how to do it right, you're not going to get it right 100% of the time, and you got to learn to figure it out without being yelled at, without being ridiculed for what you did wrong. Just figure it out by yourself. And I think with growth and time, like you learn that it's okay, like it's not the end of the world for it.
yeah, yeah. One of my biggest things is that it's easy to say go shoot a three pointer and do this 100 times, but it's hard or not hard, but it's like we don't spend enough time saying this is what open looks like. This is what a good shot looks like. This is what spacing looks like. We just say, go over there, do this thing, do that exactly as I say it, and you better understand it when I say it with no explanation. And it's like,
That's
well, how do I know I did something wrong if I don't understand the different parts of it that go into making it a whole thing?
agreed. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So I want to ask, are you from Indiana?
Yeah, born and
Okay.
raised.
Cool. So when you look around at your city, at the basketball community in your spot, I'm sure being a hooper over there, the hot spots, kind of, what's popping, what's not. What does it look like is good in the community right now? What do you think, if you had the power to magic wand, whatever the case may be, what would you change? One thing you would change?
Um, Honestly, I think right now Indiana basketball is such like in general such a hot spot. And I think we have the best hoopers in the country. In terms of top to bottom, like my Tuesday Thursday runs are I think would match up with a lot of different states or cities anywhere, in terms of the level of you know competition and productivity. Because I think we put a lot of time into making these the best. But I think if there's one thing I had to change, I think it would be giving people more of a chance, and trying to help people reach a level that they want to get to. Because I think there's a lot of people here with potential, and even the people at the top, sometimes and I get it, they may not have time to just sit down and try to help you get somewhere. But there's a lot of people with potential that go under the radar because you may not have the biggest name. And I think it's hard, and it's a hard thing to judge, and it's a hard thing to try to characterize because there's so many good players here. It's like you can't put everybody here at once because now it's going to be too crowded. But at the same time, there's so much here that it's hard to find everybody.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I part of what I'm trying to do is kind of open up the at least on the exposure side, because funding is a bit tougher to get, but like on the exposure side, at least open up that avenue for a lot of the players that don't have that chance, or never had the opportunity to be able to at least be seen, you know,
Right.
because a lot of organizations are going for like if you're not a top five talent in whatever you're doing, then I don't really want you. Even if you're how can I put it? I would rather uh, someone overly talented that I have to fit into the system than someone that fits the system but isn't overly talented. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it kind of like demoralizes a lot of athletes because it's like there's things that I may be able to develop to get to that overly talented level, but because you just want that out the gate, it's hard for someone like me to be able to make it, you know?
Yeah, and I think Indiana is a big place like that, and it's like, I luckily like was able to be in connects with somebody to be able to get into the runs and the high level things that I was able to get into, and tried to just grow myself from there. But outside of that, like trying to talk to overseas teams or coaches or anything, I've had to do that by myself. Like I don't have an agent anymore. Like I'm trying to do this by myself. And it's hard because, I have people I look up to still from Indiana like that. I wish could help me. But given some people don't have time and it's hard and I get that. But we have some people that you don't get the time of day to try to have that conversation with them. So you're stuck trying to do it by yourself.
Yeah, especially like I've tried advocating for some of the athletes I've worked with before into getting into the combines, into the exposure camps, into the overseas opportunities, reaching out to coaches from different countries, and it's a grind, you know.
It is.
And it kind of feels like if you don't have that name that you're not even gonna be like they have a stack here of who we're actually gonna look at, and then the bigger stack over here of the people that just came in. You know,
Right. Yeah, for
um,
sure.
is really tough. But for you, what advice would you give to people that are maybe they're coming out of high school, maybe they got 1 year of varsity but didn't get a lot of minutes, or maybe they're in their early mid 20s and they're like, you know what, I've always been able to play and I've taken my game seriously. I just haven't had the opportunity for whatever reason. I didn't get to play high school, maybe I wasn't ready, or I didn't get the opportunity to play college. But I still want to play. Like what do you tell people that are trying to get that opportunity? What advice would you give them?
Honestly, stack days. I think one of the biggest things. You just got to stack days. And that goes in many different ways. Whether that's in the weight room, whether that's on the court, whether that's reaching out to people. Just stack as many days as you can in a row of doing all those things, and you're going to be heading in the right direction. As well as,
Mm,
you know, dream so big like that people think you are dumb. Like genuinely dream that big because the biggest thing I've ran into is I started to hear people and try to start to dream minimalistically, and it came to the point where I was only tying myself down to certain areas when I know that I can do much more. Like I genuinely have dreams sometimes of me playing at a certain level, and I know I can. And then now it's just a matter of stacking days and still reaching out until I get an opportunity to prove myself. And then once you can finally get that opportunity, ain't nobody going to be able to take that away from you because now you've worked twice as hard as everybody else in every single category. And now at that point, you're relentless at that point.
for sure, for sure. Man, my thought completely slipped my mind
Yeah,
just
you're
now.
good. As well as just pray, and you got to pray
Mm,
more because whatever you speak out, God always hears you, regardless of what you think, regardless of how far you think you are away from Him. He's
Hmm.
always listening and always wanting to help you and make sure you are walking in faith, regardless of what's going on.
For sure. So what I wanted to ask, because we got a few minutes left before. So what I wanted to ask you is, I know you say you do like the autism therapy, or what other like things are you engaged in as far as like maybe the community or with different basketball organizations or whatever the case may be? Like, what are you engaged in with as well?
Yeah, right now I do basketball training with M14 Hoops,
Mm,
and that's in Indiana. It's also in Cincinnati. It's also in Chicago, St. Louis. Um, and I love every second of it because I love giving back to people and trying to give them the knowledge I know. Um, and another thing I'm into a lot, and I'm really trying to push forward with this because my birthday is coming up in about 2 weeks, actually, like 2 weeks and a day, I think to be exact. On August 13th, I'm trying to um, send out a bunch of um, information to raise money to bring new toys to what's it called, Riley Children's Hospital, just to give back to kids that are desperately in need and will
hmm.
always accept love. I'm gonna try to do a big toy fundraiser for them and just try to surprise them on my birthday, just to give back. Um, and I felt like it was a calling to me. Um, and I don't want to let it pass me by. I wanted to do it before, and it ended up falling through. But for my birthday, I definitely want to go all in on that and just try to give people the peace of mind that they are loved regardless of the situation they're going through. And then outside of that, I always I put on my Instagram how much I want to help people with their mental health journey. I've been through the lowest of lows, and still battling through some of those at times. But the best thing about it is I feel like my calling, I can definitely help you through certain areas and be able to help you talk through certain things that you may be afraid to talk about to somebody else, or especially a therapist, because I know people think therapy is scary, and that they're just there to listen to you and collect a check. At the end of
Hmm.
the day, I don't want to be that type of person because I know what it feels like. And I just want to be an outlet for anybody and everybody that thinks that, their life isn't worth living.
For sure, man. Well, I think you're doing solid work, man. Like I said, we went through the page and we saw everything you were doing, man. And it's solid, man. It's solid, man.
Appreciate it.
And very, very encouraging to everyone who is definitely taking a look at you, man. But for those who don't know, how do they find you?
Yeah. At Braydin Myers on Instagram.
Mm,
You can look me up Braydin Myers on Facebook. I don't really use that much, but I try to post there if I'm posting to Instagram. Outside of that, man, yeah, really just Instagram. Yeah, that's about it, really.
you said you have the toy drive coming up on your birthday, August 13th. What about anything else you have coming up? You have any games coming up? Any camps you're doing? Anything like that?
No, I think right now, I think I'm just, trying to dedicate more time to the gym. I'm about to start a new vlog of, doing the 75 hard challenge,
Mm,
and trying to just dedicate everything to Christ through that and showing my journey of how I can get back into the best shape, on April 20th, I think. Yeah, is that 420? Is that
yeah.
April? On that day, me and my girl got into a crash that ended up fracturing my spine.
Wow.
And I just got I got cleared not too long ago, and been trying to get back to 100%, and I feel like I'm getting there. So I think this 75 hard will help me get to that point. I'm talking to some teams in some different countries, hoping I hear great news. Whether that's even just they want to bring me out for a tryout. I'm just trying to dedicate as much time as I can to that, and dedicate every as much time as I can into God, and just see where it takes me.
For sure, man. I'm sorry about the accident, but from our point of view, man, you look like you're in great shape and taking care of yourself. So,
Definitely trying to.
yes, sir. Well, thank you again for your time, brother. It was a pleasure meeting you and getting to hear some of your story and what you're into.
Thank you. You as well. I had a blast. This was so much fun.
Thank you again, brother.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Have a
you have a
wonderful
good
day.
rest of your day.
God bless.
And you, brother.